Okay, what do we got here? Numbers. It's always about numbers, isn't it? In the abstract version of the world. Greetings, this is Bern, the anadromist, coming to you from Tbilisi, Georgia, for another evening for me, maybe afternoon for you, maybe morning for you, to try to raise some funds to bring my library here. And coming up, we've got Paul VanderKlay standing by. We're going to talk to Paul in just a minute. But let me give you a little bit of the numbers. Actually, let me bring Paul on, and then we can do it that way. So hold on a minute. Yeah, Paul, I have sent you the link. So it's in your email. Try it that way. There's just too many places. I could do it through Twitter, I suppose, but I went through email. So we're waiting to figure out which way Paul is going to go. I'm going to send it also on Twitter just to double up on it. And yeah, so once we get Paul on board, we will talk with him a little bit. I'll give you the numbers in a moment, but first let me do this. Okay, message to Paul. Okay, going this way, going in. That's all right. There's only a few people watching right now. Here's the link, Paul. I just sent it to you on Twitter if you want it there. So it takes a few minutes to turn around on these things. All right, so we're waiting for Paul to show up, and let me give you some facts about where we are. So this is me trying to raise money to bring my massive library, 12 time zones from Alaska to Tbilisi, Georgia. And I am going to be, oh, there's Paul. I'm going to be, the whole amount is $12,000, but that's too much to have hope to get certainly tonight. And what I'm doing is I am just concentrating on the freighter costs from Seattle, Washington to the Black Sea coast of Poti, and that's $6,000. And so far we've got $3,365, giving us only $2,635 left to go on that call. And here comes Paul.
Hey, Bern. How are you?
Thanks for giving me a little time in the morning here to help out with this. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I got way late on the way to church. There's a guy who wants wood, and so I had to still get rid of wood from last year's storm.
Right. That is your job, providing the little things here and there that people need. And my friend John Sandry at Labrie was chronically unable to get to lunch on time because he had walked through the little village of Waymo, and constantly some little French Swiss lady would say, "Can you help me move this? Can you do this? And so you understand, of course."
I understand completely. Another guy is trying to set up security cameras, and I mean, you just get a million little requests, and it's like, you didn't go to seminary to deal with wood and roofs and security cameras and computers, but that's what you do. That's what you do.
Right. Well, it's what did Paul say about the cares of the world? I think in many ways, it's the cares of the world that get people's faith much more than the big crises. I mean, sometimes it's the crises, but often it's just the little nibbling away at the daily things. I've got a thing I'm going to talk about later. We are going to talk about the fundraiser more as we go, but I want to give people a chance to show up here. And you can, if you wish, while we're talking, if you wish to make a donation, go through either PayPal or GoFundMe, both of which are below in the description section. And the GoFundMe is particularly good if you want to get a tax-deductible receipt. And don't worry about any money you already see there, because that's just, I can't get another one of those. It was so difficult for me being in Georgia to get one of those. So I have to keep the same ones. Fortunately, it just seems to stay up there forever. So
I'm curious, tell me more about this library and your shipping plan. I mean, this has got to be, I mean, where is the stuff now? Is it in a storage locker? Do you already have it in a container?
Storage unit that was just broken into, and there was some homeless guy in Alaska trying to live there. Now, what's crazy about this, there are no homeless people in Haines, Alaska. It was like one guy had found this open door, and they sent me an email saying, your stuff is fine. He didn't get into any, but what it is any unused place there, you could I could see a homeless person going and setting up shop there, and the main door was always open. And so he had locked himself in, and they had to get the police to get him out. It's the kind of thing you understand intimately, I'm sure.
Well, whenever people break into the church, they never touch my books. You
No.
know, they're looking for anything that might have some value, but they always leave my books alone. So
Yeah.
I don't know about your DVD collection and your movies or anything like that, but books they won't touch.
Yeah, no. Well, what it is I estimate that the weight of this stuff is about 12,000 pounds or 6,000 kilos. It's not a small library. A lot of that is albums, but a lot of it is books as well. And people will often see I've got books in the back here, and people will come in going, yeah, you have a nice library. I had a French friend here who's been to Alaska, and she talked to some Russian people, exiles here. And she said, that's not his library. She says, I can assure you that isn't even a part of it. So, and I was just thinking, why do I collect all this stuff? Why is it there? I'm not one of these crazy collectors who has to get like first editions of books or, super pristine everything. For me, it's all about the content in the legitimate sense of the word before it got emptied out. But then it's also about, I figure it's just like, I don't have any children. I don't have a wife, never been married. Much to my own dismay, I would have assumed I was going to. And then my life took a detour into New York City, which we'll just say the women there aren't exactly, many of them have the dark triad, but then I ended up in Alaska, which isn't really known as a place women hang out. I realized if I really wanted to get married, I would have discovered Georgia much earlier, because they're all over the place here. And really intelligent, beautiful women who love to talk about ideas and such. And these are my friends. They happen to be a bit on the young side for me. So I can't, although I was talking with one girl who's about 28 the other day, and she says, don't count yourself out yet. So I said,
well, maybe if you get all those books, then you'll be, more of a catch. They'll come in and they'll think, well, a couple decades with him, and then I inherit the kingdom.
Oh yeah, exactly. But that's part of the thing, is that and what I was just thinking before doing this today was just like, why am I doing it? But it's for somebody. It's for something. It's not just for me. I'm going to die. I'm 68 now. I'm in good health. I got my 10,000 steps in today walking to the movie theater. So, no problem there. But nevertheless, I'm not exactly, in the parlance of my youth, a spring chicken. So, but I just pray that it be the right place, that it go to the right, whether institution or person, someone who will watch over it. I've had, Teddy from Israel says, Byrne, I want to make sure that that is something. He has like this burden for it. And he's never seen it. He's seen a few photos and such, but
so how does it get shipped? You put it in a container and you ship the container, or how exactly do you make this thing work?
So here's the thing. Haines, Alaska is 70 miles up from Juneau, Alaska, the capital. And Haines, Alaska is also about 1,000 miles north of Seattle. Fortunately, Haines is it's on a fjord, and it has a port once a week a barge comes in and they take containers back and forth. A lot of food comes in that way, but also many other things, building supplies, all the different major freight items that would largely come through the barge. I did make a discovery of that the eggs take a week on the barge to get up there. So you can't whip them because the eggs lose the air inside. However, older eggs are great for hard-boiled eggs because they've got that little bubble on top. Anyway, so I have to put all my stuff into a container. So I have to go back there to do that. One of the things that's happened since I've been here is I said, okay, I only have so much space. I have these 3 large, beautiful old chests that I've been holding on to, but I said, I can only take 2. I don't need my TV anymore. I had a relatively new flat screen television. I have one here. And there are other tools and things like that and pieces of furniture like my bed frame and stuff. I don't need these things. So what I'll do is I'll go to Alaska, sort out the stuff, all the books and such in boxes, the actual library, I don't need to touch. But the other random stuff I do. And so I'm going to have a yard sale. And just to tell you what a yard sale is like in Alaska, my mother died. She had all the things from her that she could fit from her home that she was living in Alaska in a 2-room apartment. It was just stuffed full of chairs and things on the walls and tables. And there's just no room for her. But when she died, I had to evacuate the house as soon as possible. So in a couple of days, I had a yard sale. Everything went. And people, you just say yard sale, like, what did I say? 8 o'clock. The vultures were there at 7, like outside waiting for the beginning. So I'm not worried about getting rid of my stuff that I don't need. All I need the 2 magical words are tools and furniture. And that if you write baby clothes, nobody will come. But if you write tools and furniture,
right. Baby clothes are everywhere.
The furniture gets the women, the tools get the men. So
so we had this similar thing in the Dominican Republic. I mean, if you're sort of in the middle of everything, like you're living in the lower 48 in a relatively urban area, there's plenty of stuff around. And so at a garage sale, people will come early, but they'll just pick out the good things and all the other crap will get left. But I imagine in a more out of the way place where it actually costs a lot to bring up things like furniture and books, suddenly your used stuff has value and it'll just go.
Exactly. It's a seller's market.
Yep.
If you have good stuff, I have good stuff.
So tell me about Haines, Alaska. I know nothing about. You say it's right on the fjord there, and so you can do tours.
If I didn't feel like God was pulling away they say when an eagle feathers its nest and it puts leaves and twigs and stuff, but it starts with these bony branches and stuff. And I think it was the Reverend Aretha Franklin's father did a lecture, a sermon that I have on vinyl. And it's called The Eagle. It's about the eagle, and it says that the eagle will start to pull the soft stuff out to get the fledglings to fly. And he says, so they don't get to lounging around.
Vern, you are the only person I know that has Aretha Franklin's father, the preacher, on vinyl and a sermon from him, and you can still quote from it. So. I mean, how many copies of that sermon are there out there?
I don't imagine
they're only on vinyl.
I don't imagine it was a huge seller. Although I must
put it on your channel though, because if you get it on your channel, then it'll get into YouTube and then it'll stay there.
Oh yeah. Well, one of the things is when I get my library here, everything's going to change because I'm working with one hand behind my back here. So I have, for instance, maybe another 10, 15 Labrie lectures on CDs there. I have also I did a whole series. I don't think I'll do much with them on Christian history. that I did for the Presbyterian church there, but I recorded them. So it's kind of interesting. And I have all this other stuff. Plus I have lots of other spoken word things. And I have over 1,000 spoken word albums, not even CDs, just the vinyl albums. I have another 50 to 100 albums, CDs. So I just have all this material plus music from all over the world. And so I am, okay, Haines, just to get back to the subject, it's a pretty darn great place to live. You know, people who live in places like Chicago or, I don't know, Milwaukee or Minnesota, I feel bad for them because Haines is so much better. Is that getting there is tough. And they do get snow. And sometimes the weather gets kind of sloppy in the winter, but it doesn't get super cold. The whole time I was there, it only got below 0 3 times.
Really?
Yeah. People, because this is on the coast in Alaska.
Right.
Wildlife-wise, well, nature-wise, we're surrounded by glaciers, mountains, bears. Well, we'll get to bears in a minute. Nature, rivers, lakes, the ocean. And so you also have 5 species of salmon in the river. The Tlingit tribe that lives there was basically the richest tribe on the West Coast, going all the way down to Fort Ross or so in California. They had their trading trail basically followed the Russian trail followed their trail. And because they had all 5 species of salmon in 2 rivers, 5 in one, 3 in the other. Wow. By October of any given year, they were done. They collected everything. They had enough protein to get through this the year till May. But so food-wise, it's got plenty. Plus, you can grow very nice gardens there. I learned to hunt. I learned to hunt mushrooms and could identify about 11 different species that I could safely eat, and I'm still here, so it must have worked. And let's see.
No psychedelic mushrooms?
No psychedelic mushrooms. Although they do have the amanita there, and there was a woman named Constance who, she was in her 70s, late 70s at the time, and she went to the Presbyterian church there, and one day, this happened right before I got there, she had eaten a mushroom. She'd cooked it up, eaten it, and come to do the classical show. And then there was dead air that went on for like an hour or so before someone said something happened to Constance. She was kind of slurring her words, and turned out there was one of these bright red and with little white dots amanita mushroom, the kind, Alice in Wonderland and stuff. But when you eat those, you don't have a psychedelic experience; you die. So she was in the process of dying. And a friend of hers broke into the station, got her out, and got her to the hospital, and had her stomach pumped in time. And I think they sent her. So I asked her later, Constance, why did you eat that mushroom? She says, it was just so pretty.
Oh, beware of beauty. Everybody's all excited about beauty now. You got to watch Beauty.
So, greetings to a few of the people who have signed on. Upcycle Club, Ups, and Nathan Woods, greetings. You guys have both contributed already, so I'm not going to put any pressure on you. I will be describing more things related to the financial scene here, but if you want to get ahead of things, if you use the PayPal or GoFundMe link below, you can go ahead. Oh, looks like someone's already did it. So there's a little ritual every time I get something here, and that is I have to switch cameras. And oh, okay, cool. Someone just sent in $25.
That was Upcycle. He sent in. So he contributed again. So thank you, Upcycle.
I think
generous.
Yeah, hold on. I know what he's doing. You want the Georgian music, don't you, Ups? Okay, because no, there's a thing. If you give $50 or more, I will give you 50 files of really rare, obscure Georgian music. I'll send it to you. So far, I've got 10 people who've taken me up on that. And while I'm mentioning it, let me actually play a 2-minute piece here. And this is just some Georgian music. This is the kind of music that I have files of. And yeah, this is a really nice one. We'll play this. That'll be...
I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah, well, that's part of the reason I live here. Because, and in fact, what happened, we'll come back to the Haines stuff in a moment, but what happened was earlier this year, I had invited people to come, called it the Gathering in Georgia. And I got 6 guys, youngish, between 20 and about 38, 39. So, and I had Teddy from Israel, Simon from Brooklyn, Jill from Italian Switzerland, Peter from the Netherlands, Luke from Mississippi. I told Luke, I said, you realize you are the most foreign person here. No one, anyone from Mississippi. And who was the other one? Oh, Gustav's from Latvia. So it was great, and we had a great amount of time. And part of the reason I'm inviting people to do that, and I'll do it again maybe next year. I'm also doing a puppet festival next autumn here, international. So, and I've got someone behind me helping me with that. But it's because there is still a sense of there being a culture here. The new stuff is here. You know, everyone's got televisions, you've got computers, you've got smartphones everywhere. A lot of crap in the stores, shopping malls, things like that. But there's still this sense of being Georgian and not being disconnected from their culture. These things are making inroads, but I want to, part of my reason for being here is to both learn from the culture and give what I have to give. So part of the thing about my library is my record collection, which is over 13,000 vinyl and CDs. And
wow,
my major has been in trying to understand what happened to music in the 20th century and why it changed, which is precisely what's not here. So obviously, if you have access to the internet, you can go through and, you know, get any file you want. But what's the point of that? You don't know what you want. You don't know, you know, people here often know a lot of different types of music, but they don't have the context for it. So that's part of what I'm doing here, is helping them get the context for things. Anyway, Haines is a great place to live, great community. I would be there still if I didn't feel the feathers being removed from my life. So starting with my mother's death, even my cat died, and eventually, and there was some issues that were coming up, but then they sold the house out from under me. I was renting. I had a very good deal on this house for years, 22 years, 21 years, and they sold it out from under me. So I had to put everything into storage at that point. And I didn't know if I was coming here. I was coming here at that point. And but I took a 6-month kind of leave in the winter and realized I could stay places with my puppet friends in Europe and do more research. And I found a $20 a night Airbnb from someone I'd met in Georgia. So I said, okay, let's do 6 months of that. Then we'll come back. And that's when I learned that I could get a job here. And I had a job lined up. I'm no longer there because it's a complicated story, but it turned out I was making more money in Alaska in one really long day, like double shift of tourism in Alaska in the summer, than I was making in a month here. So that, and I mean, it's a long story that I don't want to get into right now, but nevertheless, I felt I should stay here. So I started collecting my retirement money, and I've been living on that more or less, which is why I don't have the funds to get my whole library here. I had been promised to be able to get, there were 2 sources of money. One was this job, which I didn't realize wasn't going to be much of a job. And the other was the French were supposed to help me with this documentary project, and they'd promised me money. And then I got to France again, and there was a change in leadership, and it disappeared. But I remember when I found out how much I would be paid a month, I left that meeting and laughed and laughed. And I said, okay, God, the joke's not on me, it's with me. You know, you wanted to make me feel good. I was told I was going to do a doll and puppet museum. And I said, oh, that sounded so good to leave. You know, it's just like build my esteem up and then get me here because this is where you really wanted me. And so, so let me do something here. I'm going to switch the camera for a minute and explain what is going on in more detail. So, just like to thank Ups for re-upping, and I guess what we're going to do is say that now he is getting the 50 files of Georgian music, and the overall goal for my fundraiser is $12,000. $6,000 will go to the freighter costs from Seattle, Washington to Poti in the Black Sea, 12 time zones away. Then there is another cost of a barge from Haines, Alaska down to Seattle. I assume that's going to be around $2,000. Then once it gets to the coast here, I will need train, truck, and to go the thing I can't predict and no one can predict, but I was told get about $2,000 for it for customs. Customs is the big if here. I could get stuck there. And then finally, I need to get my travel ticket from Tbilisi to Haines and back to Tbilisi for another $2,000. So that is what I'm trying to do. We now have officially $2,610 to go. We're just working on the freighter cost right now because there's no point in trying to make the whole thing right now. Because essentially, you work on the big one first, and we're only $2,610 away, which means we've already raised $3,390. So not bad.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, and I haven't been pushing this yet.
So Chris says, so how do I send $50?
Very good. And Chris, do you want the Georgian music? Let me know. If you do, here's how you do it. You go below. Ooh, someone's breaking in here. You go below, and you will see. Oh, actually, let me do this for you. Just a moment. You use this email address and write to me there. Oh, no, that's to come on. Sorry, wrong thing. Go below and you'll see either a PayPal link or a GoFundMe link. If you want a tax-deductible receipt, use the GoFundMe link. If you just want to contribute, use the PayPal. Either one works. And if you have problems with either of those, send me a message and we can work something else out. So, and that's good to know. Yeah, Chris goes, of course. And let's see. So, hold on. Got another one, Paul.
Yeah, please. I like the first one.
Yeah. So here is, hold on, I've got another gift. So Mark Tatum from Colorado Springs has just sent in $30 US. So I'm gonna keep that there. I have the feeling I'll get another one very soon, and then we'll put them both up while we're doing another song. So if you want to hear another Georgian song, send me some money, and we'll get that out there.
So that thing that you played before, that seemed to be at a concert or a festival or so. How
that was actually
in Georgia?
There is a book that I have that I picked up in Georgia in 2016, which besides all the pages in the book has what is it? It has 5 CDs in it, 5 DVDs in it.
Okay.
And so what they did, this was a book on Georgian folk music. What they did was they went around and just recorded different local folk groups singing. So they put them on stages and such like that. So they weren't like actual live concerts.
Okay.
So yeah, Richard, the hits will keep coming. I've got a really up-tempo one coming in a moment.
So what are the roots of Georgian culture? Because of course, with the Russians, you had the Danes coming down from the north. I'm sure you had the Hmong. I mean, I would imagine Georgia's been at the crossroads of how many different empires sweeping through.
All of them.
Yeah.
Greeks, Persians, Romans, Arabs, Turks, Mongols, a couple of times. I mean, it just goes on and on. You know, just so many different groups. Byzantium, and then finally the Russians. And here's the thing: people often say, "Well, you know, they're kind of like the Russians." I go like, "No. The Russians are like teenagers. The Georgians are like old men." And that is, for instance, the first time we can talk about Georgians is when also, and every Georgian will agree with me on this, when they started fermenting wine, which was 6000 BC. And they are the ones who basically, all the evidence points to, and the actual archaeological evidence of wine sediment in clay jars points to them being the first people in history to ferment the grape.
Wow.
And also, and we get the name wine, which, as you know, in Italian is vino, which here is called vino, which essentially the origin of the word comes from here. And also, one of the things Georgians are noted for is toasting. And not just like cheers kind of stuff, but elaborate poetic toasting. I got myself in very good, and I've done this several times when I go somewhere and people ask me to do a toast. I realize this is the moment for a bit of poetic liberty, and they love that. They just, once they see, you know, they realize you get it. It's not, a friend of mine brought some, couple of British bros to a Georgian supra is the name of the ritual meal. And they were, you know, the British, when they do their toasting and stuff, are always really sarcastic and cut people down. It's just all in fun, right? And they tried doing that stuff here. Ooh, that was just like the wrong thing to do, But so many people think that the idea of the toast comes from here too.
Wow.
Here's an interesting story, though. This is like a mythological story the Georgians tell. At the beginning of time, God was handing out all the land to all the different tribes of the earth. And the Georgians weren't there. And they came up late and they said, okay, we're here. What's it for us? And God said, sorry, I gave everything out already. And they go, but we were having a meal and we were toasting in your name. And God says, okay. You're toasting in my name? And they said, yes. And they said, I'll give you the bit of land I was saving for myself. Because Georgia is about the size of Switzerland, has mountains taller than the Alps, and they grow oranges here.
Wow.
So you have all these things. Let me look.
A little California-ish in that sense.
Got someone from Argentina here. We got CW Weeks in the house, Richard Lund. And folks, so if you want to donate to me getting this massive library, 12,000 pounds, 6,000 kilos, 12 time zones from Alaska to Georgia, there are links below in the description section for PayPal and for GoFundMe. GoFundMe is there especially if you need a what's the word I'm looking for? Tax deductible receipt. Hold on a minute. With the PayPal stuff, I get automatic notifications. But I just looked at GoFundMe, and I just got 2 people gave, including Richard and Anonymous. So now it's time for music and me to start writing stuff up there again. So Paul, are you ready for some more?
Yeah. Give me some more.
Yeah, this is more of almost, I wouldn't call it rock music, but you can tell it's a very different style. This is a group called Bonnie. Bonnie is kind of like a balcony or something like that, but that's where a lot of stuff happens in Georgia. And they're doing a piece called Rachuli. There's an area here called Racha, and it's up in the mountains. There's different mountainous areas. There's so many different mountains here that every major valley has a different culture. And one of my Georgian friends who knows a lot about music says there's over 10,000 folk songs here that they've found. So, but this is basically a folk song, but it's been modernized. So let's listen to Bonnie doing their version of Rachuli. And Rachuli just means song from Racha.
Hori
interesting fusion.
Yeah, yeah. So it's very similar to other things that have happened in other European countries where they've mixed modern sounds with traditional sounds. And that's some of my favorite kinds of music in different countries, where they've kind of, rather than treating it, you know, when I was young, we had the folk revival, and you'd have Joan Baez or somebody singing these old songs very delicately and, you know, in a very pristine manner. Whereas I find that the folk, some of it is folk punk, but it's also folk dance and other types of styles. They treat it less gingerly and more they just yank it into the 21st century, which I love. That's the kind of thing I love. So okay, so let me switch over here. Chris, I'm writing you something here. So let me switch cameras and go to the big wall. And here we are. So, oh, I see what's going on here. So hold on. So, well, thank you to Anonymous for 50, Richard for 50, and I'm assuming, Anonymous, that you're going to have to give me your address, because I think send me something to Reckoning Motions at yahoo.com. I'll put that up in a minute, and you can give me your address, your email address, so I know where to send you the files. So anyway, so we got Anonymous and Richard. I assume those are both two people getting their 50 files of Georgian music, plus Mark with 30, so that was $130. Now we only need $2,480 to get to get the actual container, at least from Seattle to Georgia.
Well, it's funny because you think about it, you got to go Seattle, you've got to go all the way across the Pacific, you've got to go down around India.
Yeah, exactly.
And
it's halfway. Okay, let me tell you this story.
You're going to go up into you're going to go through the Suez and then up to the Black Sea. I mean, how on earth do you get there?
Yeah, it goes through the Suez Canal, then across the Mediterranean into the Black Sea.
Wow.
Yeah. So this thing is on when the container is there, it'll be on a major expedition all by itself.
My
So I'm going to tell you this terrifying story that just happened. So I go and look at my bank account, and I find that there have been 3 fraudulent payments made yesterday, totaling well over $600.
Fraudulent payments? Who makes fraudulent payments?
Well, that is to say, I made the fraudulent payment. I didn't, but someone got my bank account information, my card information. So they took it out of my account. Yes, it was from a shady place in Singapore. So the money that I've been trying to raise here, you know, we'll say the last couple of times I did, just got eaten up. However, I called the bank, you know, desperate to like, what's going on? Fortunately, I only found this one day after it had occurred. And I just had to submit a form. They had to send me a form here, and I signed it and then scanned it and sent it back to them. And they're sending me a new card. The only problem with that is, normally, when I know I've got a new card coming, I will take a bunch of money out of my bank account and put it in my Georgian account. But my Georgian account was kind of low. And so it's just like, oh no. So I do have some money put aside here that I hate to break into, but I've had to, and I'm just trying to be, it's going to take about 3 weeks or more for the money to actually, for the card to get here. And here's the weird thing. Georgia, for one thing, it's going to take 10 days before I find out if I can get my money, a credit back from the bank. So that could just be money that's totally gone. Secondly, There's no way to get mail to me here. I can get packages, but not envelopes. No one can send me a postcard. Because Georgia, okay, and I've tried to explain this to people, and I finally figured out the best way to explain it. The Soviet Union, you're sending a letter to somebody. Someone's going to read it. And that's how Solzhenitsyn was thrown into the gulag for 10 years. He made some wasn't a big remark, just a kind of something on the level of Stalin, that old fuddy-duddy. And he went to, so that means that people were not in the habit of writing much to each other because of this fact. So Georgians to this day, it's all about the personal meeting. There are lots and lots of Georgians on Facebook, but they don't write to each other. They often kind of do these mass tribal likes. Like, for instance, I put photos of the music and dance group Arisioni down. I got 1,000 likes on it. But no one's writing to you and saying, how are you, whatever. You know, all my Georgian friends don't do that. They do not use, and the Russian people I know here don't either. And there was one over here the other day, I said, I think I figured this out. The reason there are so Tbilisi has close to, say, 1.5 million people. So it's not a small city. It's the biggest city in Georgia. 5 post offices. No delivery. Which to an American sounds insane. And it sounds insane to the US government, who I had a big problem when they cut off my Social Security because they sent me a letter I was supposed to do something with. And I was just like, oh no. And yeah, that took me 2 months to resolve. So anyway, there is a freight company here called USA to Georgia. So I have a separate address in Delaware, the mysterious state of Delaware. And
Joe Biden's state. You got it. You know, you can't mention Delaware and not mention Joe Biden.
You've done it for me. Downstairs. Thank you. No, I don't have to. You know, no. So here's the thing: they don't accept, for instance, magazine subscriptions, nor do they accept envelopes or postcards. Therefore, if you know anything about the way cards are transferred to each other, it's always by envelope. So I had to, last time I had this problem, I had to sit there and beg, put it in a little box. And they said, well, we're going to have to charge you extra. I know, $15, $20, $50, whatever it takes. I need that here. And so they just had to do that again. And so that's going to take probably a week or so to get to the Delaware facility in a little box, because they'll take packages, but then another week to get here.
So how does the package then get to you? Does someone, they give it to someone and someone trots it over to your house and knocks on the door? And...
There is one of the facilities for the USA to Georgia is actually around the block from me. I'm in a very good location. Where I lived before was not nearly as close. So I just get a notice through email or on the phone, and then I'd run over there and get it. And so it's, you know, meanwhile, I have no money because there was only a couple of hundred lari in my bank, which translates roughly into $75 or so. And one thing I did realize, though, as soon as I saw this thing, I said, oh my goodness, I had better pull out my rent money. So I went and pulled out my rent money to the limit of my bank account for the day, but I couldn't pull any more out. And so I'm just, you know, I have my money for rent. And then I took some money from myself that I try not to take, in my emergency money. And then I went and translated it into Georgian lari. And I said, okay, now we'd be very frugal until this thing gets here. So what that means is we can have, someone could decide Bern really needs help and give me $2,000 right now saying, we're really going to help Bern. And it will be very helpful to get that. But as far as relieving my situation, not for
much.
2 weeks. There's nothing I can do. There's no, because the other thing is I can't make a bank transfer because the Americans, particularly the Alaskan bank I'm with, looks at the Georgian bank as being essentially not legitimate. So it's fun. Well, look, I've got more stuff coming in here that it looks like I have to pay attention to. Yes. So
I moved the mic closer, Laura. I think Bern's a little hot because I hear you peaking on your mic, and and then StreamYard's going to try and level it. So I moved my mic closer, so hopefully you can hear me better, Laura.
Very good. Okay. Hey, Chad, welcome. And that Laura person, I will be putting our conversation on. I'm going to chop a bit of this up, the good parts, and use it for an anadromous dialogue. And I did a nice one with Laura and also Dae-Jin. I don't know if you have interacted with Dae-Jin.
Oh, yeah, he's a regular.
Yeah, he's great. So, yeah, Dae-Jin's been with me from the beginning. It's amazing how many people started with Paul VanderKlay's interview with me. So those are like the OGs. So,
well, that was a long time ago now. You were one of the first people to
2019
me when I started doing this thing.
Yeah, 2019. So it's been a while. Yeah. So let me play another piece of Georgian music. Remember, for $50 or more, hint, hey, Tayo's here. Tayo. He's Tayo in Nigeria, Tayo in London, but I call him Tayo. He did a great interview, and I extracted his interview and made a video of it. Oh, I got to tell you the video I'm doing next. But if you want Georgian music, $50 will get you at least 50 files. If you give me more, you'll get more, etc. I've got about 700 files, and some of it is the music you are hearing. But let's, this one isn't going to be one of the ones you're hearing. And if you want, I can tell you where this is on YouTube. It's really hard to find. Although I did put this on my, I did a video of Georgian cover versions of Western, British and American songs, although this one's German. This one is just fun. This is a group of, a choir of mostly girls singing this German heavy metal song by Rammstein called Du Hast. So it's a choir of Georgian girls singing Du Hast. And look at the girl who's kind of on the right-hand side of the screen. She's just going nuts. Meanwhile, I'm going to deal with some of this stuff. But if you want, link below, PayPal and GoFundMe. We'll be back in a moment. Meanwhile, this is the weird side of Georgian music. Du hast mich. Du hast mich.
I'm not exactly sure what I just saw.
Well, instead of just showing you something traditional, I just thought I'd show you something crazy.
So the song is obviously famous because that Laura says, I have memory of seeing a live performance of this song with a lot of pyrotechnics.
Right.
So explain it a little bit more background.
Well, Rammstein is this like industrial metal band from Germany who does all these really, I mean, if you hear the guy actually sing this, it's like, du hast, it's just like this deep, dark, scary voice. And the music is super loud and heavy. And they've turned it into this children's choir. But that one girl was really getting into it. She was like, which I love that. I love that. So, okay, let me, time to switch the screens again. And because we got cash on the line here, U.S. American greenbacks. And so let's see what we're doing here. Okay. So we just had, so I guess anonymous really is anonymous, which is fine. And then because Chris then gave $100. Chris, you're not the guy who also does music, are you? And if you know what I'm talking about, I don't want to blow your cover. But if you are, that would be nice. But if you're not, that's okay too. Michael Stasevich and his wife Nancy keep giving increments. So, and they've already gotten the thing. But anyway, he just threw in, for some reason, 16 more. He did the lowest one, 7, but his wife did like a couple hundred. So it's like, it's really funny to me. And then Donovan gave 50 US, and I'm assuming, Donovan, that you want Georgian music, 50 files. So there you are. So what a strange thing. Paul, you're good luck to me here.
I'm happy to help. I'm happy to help.
Yeah.
I'll have to, what has been so magical about the last 6 years for me has been, things like this, where I find myself to be a complete neophyte. I never heard of Rammstein. And so now, via these girls, obviously totally into it.
Right.
And so then I can Google it and it's like, oh, this is a thing. I had no idea. And Chad, the song is "You Hate Me." Oh, that makes sense then.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
So, it's a strange thing. So I just made a video which I'm going to put out probably on Saturday, and it's called basically the subject. I haven't given it an actual title yet, but the subject is visual education. And one of the things I've been thinking about for a while is that I had these homeschool kids in Alaska. And so I did 3 years of music education with them, going from what is music and classical music and tribal music and folk music from around the world, to finally went through the history of American music, European music, American music, covered all this stuff, and then ended up with whatever was the current thing at the time. And scared the hell out of them at different times because the music is just like, underground in the 80s, not a pleasant time. But the thing, then they wanted me to teach more, and I said, okay. And then I said, okay, so I'll do a couple of years on, and these are the seasons, the winter seasons when I would get the teaching in. I'll say, okay, I'll do 2 on film and media history. And what I realized as I was teaching that is that, when you go to school these days, the thing everybody's going to teach you is, your language, English in our case, and how to read and write, which is great, except people spend far more time with visual information on the screen than they do actually reading these days. And yet people are pretty much ignorant, illiterate about it. And what I mean is, they don't know. I have a list of questions at the end of the video's going to be pretty short, probably under 40 minutes or so. But there are questions like, what's an angle? How does for instance, what does a lower angle do to an image? What does editing do? What does the screen do to you? for instance, we are right now looking at screens, which is very different than looking at a book or even a movie, which is reflected light. But instead, we're looking directly at the light source, which we are learning creates a lot of other problems. What is the difference between visual propaganda and other forms of propaganda? Why do video games work the way they do in terms of visual connections or compulsion? And it strikes me that, for instance, in churches, we in Alaska, we had people were supposed to get their knowledge. Someone stick a videotape in or a DVD or something, and you'd be watching this program. Vacation Bible School, or even How Should We Then Live by Francis Schaeffer, and other stuff. And people don't realize, well, there is a big difference in how you process knowledge between verbal, for instance, dialogue, and reading, and visual learning. And so what I do in the video is just talk about that. But what I realized is that, the teachers don't know any more than, the students do. And everyone thinks they know, which is one of the reasons why no one understands what we're doing to children when we give them devices before they have any conception of what they're doing.
Yeah.
And people have asked me, when should I give my child a phone or a tablet or whatever? And I go like, when they understand what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that isn't as simple. For instance, is a phone just a little device you hold in your hand and look at? Well, yeah, but that's not what it is. It's more like the tiniest parts of a massive tentacled creature that goes throughout the world. It is not a small thing that you are in control of. It is a big thing. And when you can articulate that and have a bit of fear and respect for it, then you can use it, which I think takes until mid-teens,
Yeah,
to really be able to articulate that.
Yeah.
But the problem is we're often the blind leading the blind. Yeah. It is the people, because I will talk to Christians about this stuff. And, this goes on in churches, obviously, just as well as any other place. And they will say things like, well, this is all just neutral. We're just using new tools. And to which my response is, no, that's not what we're doing. We're doing something very different. This isn't traditional learning in any way. And we're, in a sense, conducting a massive experiment on ourselves. So anyway, just to bring some cheer to the room.
Well, it's I'm watching the Chad writes here,
Right.
a metamodern genre driven band, sonically shrouded in a visual mystery and narrative, a band described as an anonymous collective. The visual aspect is primary icon driven, essentially mysterious.
Well, one thing I've been researching lately is Taylor Swift.
Really?
And on her birthday, December 13th, I am releasing my massive study on what she means to our society. And essentially, I started reading about I've been aware of her music for ages, but I started, it was just kind of in the background somewhere. I don't even have much music by her, a couple of files, that's it. I've since remedied that to some extent. And but what I realized, I went and saw I heard about the concert video, which was making lots of money, and I went to the movie theater here 1 month after it came out. It came out while I was hosting my friends for the gathering in Georgia. So, and then I had my French friend come. So I went after all of these things. And there were girls dancing in the aisles. And this was a month later that they were still selling this out, and girls were dancing in the aisles in Georgia. And I'm not talking Macon and Atlanta. I'm talking Tbilisi. I'm talking somewhere 10 years ago, this would never have happened here. And it just struck me, and one of the things that struck me, and I because of the nature of this weird viewing experience, I realized this isn't a normal movie. It is a participatory thing. And so I just started taking videos of the girls and videos of some aspects of the screen that struck me. Like I just immediately thought, oh, she's a god. She really is.
But what is this? I talk to my kids sometimes, and I'm a complete ignoramus because I can't even name a single Taylor Swift song. I mean, it is just something that I don't bump into it in terms of the people at my church. I mean, because Freddie is probably the most into contemporary music, and of course, it's going to be rap if it's Freddie. So she did a movie. She did a movie concert.
A concert movie. Here's the amazing thing. She completely bypassed the powers that be in Hollywood, booked the theater by herself, and made $100 million. Or, well, that was the first month. It's probably well over 300 million by now. And everyone looked at that. See, this is turning out to be a very interesting year for movies. I'm going to do I have a new channel called The Anadrome, which is going to be more specifically for movies, music, and media. And this is something I need to deal with at the end of the year. What's happened in movies this year? Because we're seeing the collapse of Disney. Woke type messaging is collapsing. And yet we see this strange thing with Barbie and Oppenheimer being huge hits. And then we have the Sound of Freedom.
Yeah.
Christian indie movie. I finally just got a copy of it because it wasn't traveling around the world. And I just watched it and I said, yeah, I get why this was a big deal. And then there's this Taylor Swift movie. And the Sound of Freedom and Taylor Swift completely reversed the Hollywood strategies, which I think is really fascinating. The Hollywood strategies, and then they had the actors' strike and the writers' strike in the same year. So this is a year that's just like someone just came and jammed like a monkey wrench into the bicycle gears, and the whole thing is going, I mean, especially after a couple of years of COVID-related movie, just the emptiness of theaters and stuff. So we're really living in a pivotal time. And for me, that's good. That's good news.
So, you should have you've never had Chad on your channel. You should definitely have Chad on your channel.
Well, if Chad wants to be interviewed, Chad maybe.
There you go, Chad. There you go, Chad. But I think you're right. I mean, I just saw this video, the death of cinema, and that tended to focus on the going to the movie experience, because that in America is, I mean, movie theaters, and for a variety of reasons. I mean, so even my wife now, for a while before COVID, we had this little movie pass thing and we would go to the movies. It was real tough to find a movie that I actually wanted to watch. But, my wife and I would do this just because it would get us out of the house and we'd have a dinner and then we'd go to a movie. It's a ritual of sorts. And then COVID hits. And then it was interesting because after COVID, my wife, even though she's not COVID paranoid or anything, she doesn't want her mask or anything like that, but she's just like, going to a movie is just kind of icky. And it was like, there's a residue there. And so we really haven't, we went to see the Barbie movie when we were in Massachusetts because a bunch of the nieces wanted to see it, but that's the last time I was in a movie theater.
Yeah.
But I think you're right in that I really do want to make a video on the Barbie movie, and there's talk of doing a live stream about it because, I thought the Barbie movie was a really important movie.
Yeah, it is.
That doesn't mean it's a good movie. I actually liked it in a lot of different ways, but I thought it was a really important movie. I haven't seen Oppenheimer yet.
I have a whole video on Barbie that's pretty in depth, and I deal with dolls and I deal with Barbie and stuff like that.
Oh, that makes sense.
But
is that on your Anadrome channel or is that on the new channel?
Yeah, the Anadrome channel just got started. Right now, there's only a theological review of the recent Exorcist movie.
Oh, that's interesting.
So, yeah.
There's a recent Exorcist. They remade The Exorcist?
There's the sixth one, The Exorcist 6, it would be called. But they don't call it that. They call it The Exorcist colon believer. To which my response is, there wasn't a whole lot of believing going on in this. Who was supposed to be the believer here? And so my takedown of it is essentially, for instance, as soon as you enter, I talked about this, you will understand this very clearly. I talked about one of the central characters to help get rid of the demons is a voodoo practitioner from Haiti, which is how the demons got in the first place, according to the logic of the movie. And I'm sitting there going like, no, this doesn't work this way. You just can't bring everybody in. And then I talked about, for instance, African religion. I said, you realize in Africa, people are abandoning African religion by the droves, and there's hundreds and hundreds of millions of Christians in Africa, and how do you think they would look at this film? You know, they're coming from that. Do you think they would say, "Oh yeah, you should go watch this film"? No, I'm pretty sure it would be proscribed to all the believers there. You know,
what's so funny to me about you know, our supposed diversity is that I find that there's just a complete lack of diversity in any of these substantive things. Wes from Ireland sent me. I'll drop a link in the comments here. Hold on. Paste. No. Paste. There we go. It was by the German. It's by the GW or the DW, the German channel.
right.
It's Control of Knowledge Power, and so you have this woman with a mohawk who's, you know, who herself, as she styles herself as just this uber globalist, and then she goes to an African country and she's talking to all these people doing something, you know, kind of interesting. And it's interesting because one of the women that she's interviewing has a Christian t-shirt on, and then she goes and finds this witch, and she's like, oh, you know, this all these Christians here are trying to do things, but the true Africa is this witch. And it's like, you know, this woman has no clue what she is playing with or talking about.
No. And there are, shall we call them witch doctors, just for want of a better word, practitioners who in Africa would turn a woman like that into just a screaming mess because they're so powerful. And Rookmacher was always talking about that because his wife was really involved with African missions and such, and how that, you know, Christian missionaries would go down there and they'd be thinking in terms of like the American situation or the European situation, and they would get there and they would discover, oh my goodness, you know, this is not anything that was on their menu, you know. And so let's see. I'm going to play another song, and I've got Chad has contributed $11.11 just to screw with my totals here. Hopefully someone else will even it out for him. Maybe that's why he gave it, or he's just being Chad, most likely. So let me do that. But while I'm doing it, let me see what else I've got here scheduled to play. Okay, here's another group from this folk music book from one of the DVDs inside of it. And this is, okay, another group of women. We'll give them a chance.
That was super interesting.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing about Georgia, there's all these different zones here. And so, like in one place, they sing with the, like, they'll just have a drone and have a couple people singing harmonies on top. And this is, for most people think this is the place where polyphonies have been going on, certainly since Christian times, but even before then. And they look at the polyphony as being essentially like the Trinity. You have to have three-part harmonies at least, you know. Okay, so I would like to thank Chad for $11.11, bringing us to needing $2,302.89. If someone else could please just provide 89 cents just to get rid of that, so I don't have to keep writing it. Please, I beg you. You could just give me I mean, okay, 289 would get us to $2,300. So, you know, if you just send 289, I'll be happy. Michael, I know this is your kind of price. So, but
so Michael
nice
corrected earlier.
So
Michael corrected earlier and said the big gift was from his mother, not his wife.
Oh, okay. That's very good to know.
So it's a whole family affair.
Yeah. Well, evidently people think I'm doing a good job, so I'm glad.
Well, you are. You've got your own niche of obviously long form, in-depth, artistic perspective. I mean, that's sort of what you've been doing with your channel. Okay. So CW Weeks wants to know, still curious, what level gets me access to Burns' unpublished novel?
Yeah, wouldn't you like to? Because I have it, and I have it here on a file. If you want it on a file before anybody else, I can do that, and I will. Yeah.
I think that should be $100 level. I think
that you suggest the price, and I'll name my price, $500. I'm serious. I'm not letting it out of my sight for less than that. So
there you go, CW.
He said, "Name your price." I just did, and I will at some point send you a page with an autograph on it. Since obviously you're going to have to print up your own, but I'll send you in the mail. I can actually send things from here. It takes a couple of weeks to get anywhere, but I have tested it and sending things to the Social Security Department. But you know, if you're going to say name your price, I just did.
There you go, $500.
Well, I'm trying to get this self-published by the end of the year. So, how do I contact you to set up a conversation? At this, hold on a minute. Write to me here at reckoningmotions@yahoo.com. So you send that, and we'll work it out, Chad, and we can do it soon because I need your help. Maybe next week. Maybe next week. So,
well, you know, there's kind of a little extra air in the corner because, of course, poor Grim is reduced to using his phone because his computer blew out. And so we don't have all the branding. We don't have all the so instead of branding on this channel, we get Georgian folk music. So I like that. I like that.
Yeah. Well, I've got lots more. Who was it? Someone just asked me to do like a pirate radio thing. What would Burns Pirate Radio look like? I'm going to do that another night. I'm just going to go way out there. I mean, people will often, you know, I'll play you some Chinese surf lounge music from the 70s. I'll play you Kuwaiti soul funk music from the 1970s, 1980s. I'll play you, you know, I've got Chinese versions of Madonna songs. I've got, you know, just incredible stuff. An Israeli version of Smoking in the Boys' Room. Crazy stuff. Look, Paul, we're going to have to, I've got like 4 people here who have I've got to deal with stuff. I've got stuff to deal with, Paul.
You go ahead. You go ahead. I'll be patient.
Yeah. So let's okay. It's going to take me a minute. You won't mind
some branding. You're going to play some branding and play another folk music so you can do stuff, because that's what Grizz does. I mean, he live streams, and the branding. I know he's going out for a smoke. He's got to take a piss.
Okay.
You know.
Okay. Let me find a good one here. Okay, this is a really weird one. I think this is the group Bonnie, somewhere behind there, maybe not. It's another version of the Rachuli song, but this was done as like a professional video. And I know exactly where they filmed it. There's this ethnographic museum, outdoor ethnographic museum in Tbilisi. And so they filmed it there. But what's really interesting about this, I think you'll find this fascinating, Paul, is it starts off with the traditional dancers and traditional dresses. And then about halfway in the middle of the song, it goes into electronic music. And you see people doing break dancing and stuff. Meanwhile, you see the traditional dancers just kind of staring at them. And then
Freddie and Paul show.
And then it goes back to the traditional music again, and then it just kind of fades out. But here's the so this, I think this was made for some sort of promotional thing for the country of Georgia back around 2012. But it's pretty fascinating. So let's watch that while I'm. I got another one I've got to deal with. Paul, you're too good for me.
I'm glad I can help. Glad I can help.
So let's do this.
was amazing. That was amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty good. And that's one of the files, folks. So I've got a bunch of jokers out here, Paul.
Yeah, that's probably my fault.
Okay, so Chad decided to send 289. So we found them. And Richard sent 1089. But CW made up for it all with a $500 contribution. So
all right, there it is, the unpublished novel with,
okay,
with a
I will
signed
give it to you,
page.
and I'll get it to you with that kind of price. I can get it to you this weekend. So with copies of my illustrations, which I have to confess I did through warping an AI. So, but I've learned that the whole thing about AI is what you actually have to prompt it with. And fortunately, I have a very deep bag of prompts. So, okay, so that's $516.67. Hold on a minute. So I've got to go $2,302. Oh, this is just going to kill me. I know it is. Okay, and $2.89 minus 500 and oops, back it up. $516.67, and that equals. I now need. I don't care anymore. I now need $17,786.02.
Wow.
So
We're
let me write this.
there.
Hold on a minute. Let me switch this and take us to the settings. And for those of you just coming in on this and wonder what in the heck is going on, this is Burns trying to get enough money to send his huge, massive library from Alaska 12 time zones away to the country, not the state of Georgia. Okay, so here's the thing. I would like to round that number off, but for 2 cents, I don't actually care anymore. That'll just kind of disappear in a while. But here's the point. If you feel so inclined to,
be careful what you ask for.
right, to fill in the 2 cents, write it down in the chat first so we don't get 20 people trying to fill in the 2 cents. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Good grief. Thanks, Paul. And thanks to all of you. Seriously, thank you. I couldn't do this without any of you. I mean, I am just impressed that anybody bothers to give me anything. You know, I mean, just because they don't have to. And I haven't even gone to Facebook yet. But last time I did this, the majority of the money that I raised was from these people and not Facebook. Facebook, I would say it was about 85% off the channel. And Facebook was, my older friends were about 15%. So I am going to go there and I'm going to do some live stuff there. I'm going to try a little bit on Twitter, see how that goes. And then I'm going to do some on a couple of my other channels, the Georgian channel and the Puppet channel, and see how those go. Because everybody needs to chip in. But I have the feeling, see, I have over 2,000 people on my Gravity from Above channel, the one with puppetry and other documents, but they're not these kind of people. You don't really interact with them so much. So let's see.
Well, that's part of what I've been getting at on Twitter over the whole James Lindsay drive-by Ortho Bros thing that has been going on with that. These different, YouTube has a spirit, and there's sub-spirits obviously, and Twitter, I mean, and Facebook, these different things have different spirits, and so different things will come from them. And part of what, I mean, you and I, long time ago, you know, you started talking to me about texture. And YouTube, better than a lot of the other channels, affords a texture.
Right.
And I think that's part of the reason people connect so much via something like YouTube, because there's more of a sense of who you are and what you're about. And, you know, if they're watching your stuff on YouTube too, that really comes through. So,
Yeah, I figure I've got maybe hardcore people about 250, but that's people who are really there for you. Another, maybe take it up to over 500 for people who are really more involved with the channel. And then I've got 2,500 people, but I would say some of them only come out for the big guns, like when I do How Should We Then Live series, or the Barbie one got, I think that's about 1,100 right now. So those get more. One of the reasons I started the Anadrome was to do stuff that's a bit more compact or more focused directly on the arts and such. Because I figured if I did things like, if I used my regular channel for movie reviews and things like that, then I would end up being hold on a second. Trying to do something here. There, okay. So, but if I started doing more movie reviews and stuff like that on my channel, well, the problem is also the algorithms.
yes.
Because I do stuff that will get some traction, and then I'll do an interview with someone and maybe get 400, 500 views.
Right.
And then I might do an announcement video, get 300 views. Then I'll do, I just did one on new approach to culture and the arts and practical things we could do. And that's rising up the charts as we go. But to the YouTube algorithms, as you know, they don't like that kind of thing.
No.
And so what I'm doing with the other channel, the Anadrome, is just giving them the thing that I think will eventually siphon people off to the anadromist, which is where I still plan on doing. Like the YouTube video I'm doing this weekend on visual education is an anadromist video, you know, and it's the kind of thing that people like to chew on over there. Whereas I'm going to keep it strictly much more media focused and over on that. So what I'll probably do with the Taylor Swift is do one version for the Anadrome that's like more concise and to the point, and then the long version over on the Anadromist, where I get into the Christian theories about how Taylor Swift is you know, these kind of QE Illuminati theories about how she's actually being taken over by the devil and stuff like that. Yeah, believe me. And there was a girl who said, I was a Swiftie, and then she goes off and it's just like, and Taylor is a witch and she's doing all of this, and I can understand it, because she lived her whole life by what Taylor Swift was doing next. And what I realized when I said Taylor Swift is like a god, well, she is. But what's interesting, if you go back to Woodstock, which, by the way, adjusted for inflation, is still the highest grossing concert movie ever.
Really?
But number 2 is already Taylor Swift, beating everything else out. So, but the thing about Woodstock, I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, but all the musicians are presented like deities. So, you know, who is it? Joan Baez is the goddess of social conscience. Sly and the Family Stone is the god of like excitement, and Joe Cocker's the god of insanity, and Jimi Hendrix is the god of power, electrical power, and he's even framed that way with stuff behind him and stuff. And there's lots more gods, you know. Whereas the difference is, in this movie, there's only one god, and it's Taylor Swift. But the interesting thing about her is, what's she the god of? The self. All of her music is basically about herself. And all of those people in the audience, like she has a recent song, Antihero, that I find really fascinating. It can be read in different ways. And the chorus is, I'm the problem, it's me. And she talks about essentially the things that keep her up at night and how, and all of this. But it can be read ironically. Okay, yeah, say the problem is me, or it can be read unironically, yes, the problem is me. And that's the fascinating thing about the song. But, so I just found a video clip of her whole, see, when you go to one of these massive concerts with 50,000 people, 70,000 people in a stadium, 80,000 people, 100,000 people, they all know the lyrics to the songs. And so someone's got a little cell phone clip of her singing that song, but you can't hear her singing the song. You just hear, 20, 30, 40,000 people all singing, "I'm the problem, it's me," which is a very strange thing to happen in such a case. And here's what's also really fascinating, is that what is she the goddess of? The self. But I was just talking with some people about this the other day, and he goes, well, it's not like the self in the me generation or Generation X. It's not like the self in the 90s. I said, you're right. The self that they are becoming is Taylor. She's the goddess of the self, and they're screaming like they're the Beatles through the whole concert. There are girls who literally go into a state of amnesia afterwards and don't remember the concert because they've been screaming so long during the concert. And I find this a fascinating religious experience. And it really is. We watch this thing. Eventually, the movie will come out on some sort of streaming platform, or I'm going to get it when it comes out on Blu-ray, which it will, because she's a genius at marketing. And that's how she got the movie into the theater. But she also can get these young girls to all go out and buy turntables, to buy 4 copies of one album, because they create a clock. And the funny thing is about that is she's re-recording her old music to get the rights away from this kind of shady producer. And here's the fascinating thing. She's doing this, and she puts out these special editions of the records. So some of them have 2 records extra in them. And so she did one where to get the highest quality sound, there's 33 RPM, but actually 45 RPM on a 12-inch is the highest quality. So she put some of those in there. And then some of these poor Zoomer kids are going like, I really like her music, but why does she sound like a man? Exactly.
Yeah, because you and I are old farts who remember record players at 33 and 45 and 78.
Well, the funny thing is they are going out specifically to buy turntables. How many young girls are going to buy turntables specifically because of Taylor Swift? To which my thinking is like, great. I'm glad to hear it. But it is funny. It is a strange.
Do contemporary turntables that you can buy, do they have the different speeds?
Oh, yeah. You can get 3 speeds, actually, 78 and down to 33, 78, 45, 33.
Huh.
Although I wish they had a 16, because I do have a couple records that are 16 RPM for reading, and it takes an hour per side. So it's kind of fascinating. I have like an old preacher album from the 1950s where they put his whole sermon on one side. I think it's David Wilkerson, actually, isn't it?
Really?
Yeah, I have a lot of old Christian stuff. Lots of crazy Christian albums that are fascinating.
Someday, someone's, 50 years from now, there's going to be somebody in Tbilisi, Georgia, who says, yeah, I've got this vinyl from a whole bunch of old Christian preachers on vinyl in Tbilisi, Georgia. And someone's going to have a YouTube where they're going to explain about, there's this guy named Burn Powers, and he had sort of a Jerry Lewis telethon with this preacher from Sacramento, and they raised money. And one guy even gave $500 for an unpublished book with illustrations and the signature. It's insane. It's just insane.
Hold on a minute. My good friend Richard Lunn has thrown in, okay, no one put the O2. Richard Lund has just given $10.02.
Okay, so we're at the we're back to the dollar amounts now.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't want to see any more pennies, Chad.
you can't say that stuff. Some troll is gonna give 43 cents.
I know.
It's gonna happen.
Then I have to go through this whole thing of trying to get rid of the amount, which eventually I'll go like, nah, it's not worth even thinking about. Okay, what's that? 86. So 1,700 to get to the freighter costs were only $1,786 and no cents away. So if you would like to contribute, I am giving Georgian music. I have hundreds, literally about 700 Georgian music files, and I will send them. Right now I've got, hey, CW, do you want the Georgian music? Let me know. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 people getting Georgian music files. So you have to give at least $50. If you give 100, you'll get 100 files if you want 100 files. If you only want the 50, you can give 100 or 200 or 300. I mean, someone gave me 200 and I said, well, you want the files? How many files do you want? Although there is a law of diminishing returns. Of those 700 files, I'd say 200 are more specialist type things that you wouldn't particularly care about. Nevertheless, hold on a minute.
David Walker makes the observation. What's funny, I notice, is that girls that really like Taylor Swift don't have many relationships, if any at all. And girls that have had a lot of relationships like rap.
Oh yeah. Now which reminds me, speaking of visual education, there's this young woman, Amala Ekpanobi, whose father is Nigerian and her mother is white, but she was on PragerU for a while, but now she's independent. And she's got a pretty sizable following, but she did a video recently on stuff happening to what some people are calling Gen Alpha. What, do we start the alphabet over again or something? But these young kids, like 5, 8, 12 years old, coming in, and one girl was, one 22-year-old, so a Gen Z, was trying to teach this younger person about, they had like a ballet class, and the kids were going, no, I don't want ballet. I want to hear Pound Town by Sexy Red. And you watch that video, and your eyes are being yanked out of their sockets. And you're saying that anyone, 5 years old would be watching this, or 10 or 6 or whatever. And you realize there's something going on. And she goes through video after video of people, mostly inner city kids, who are, it's predominantly Black teachers, saying, this young generation, you have no idea what's coming. And it's just scary because they are just belligerent. And here's the real problem. So the parent, they want the parent, for instance, one teacher was saying, I just wanted to tell the parents, I had the mother, and I said, I just want the child to listen to me when I talk. And the mother goes, my child doesn't have to listen to you. Yeah, who knows what we're breeding.
Well, CW is right, because so Paul immediately pulls up the video, and I did it. It's like,
oh, you started looking at it. That's why your face dropped.
Okay,
yeah.
We're closing that tab.
I'm
back to the Woodstock movie tab. Now, the film was the 1969 film, Burn, the one.
Yeah, which is an important film to watch, I think, for understanding that time. But it really is presented like a pantheon, whereas Taylor is the goddess. There are no others. And I think for this generation, particularly of young girls, obviously not young boys, they are seeing, and there's an interesting study I'm doing of her where she went to churches when she was young. She sang in choirs. And at some point, someone said, yes, she in some interview, I'm looking for it still. She says, I listened to Amy Grant and what's his name? Michael Smith, Michael J. Smith. Yeah. And I'm sitting there going, I got the number on this church already. You know, I know what kind of church it was. It was a church that was basically middle of the road. You know, they weren't particularly anything.
Right. It was Amy Grant, Michael W. Smith. I mean, that's exactly who that was in the 80s.
Yeah. And what's weird is that she has a song that was written when she was about 12 years old, sometime very soon after September 11th. It's called Didn't They? And it's all about how, you know, God, didn't these people pray? What's wrong? And in a sense, you can see her being disconnected from her faith at that point.
Wow.
And my thought is, why is it, and I think this is particularly an American problem, North American, is that people just emphasize the positive.
Yeah.
They don't emphasize the tragedy. Yeah. No one here in Georgia has that problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they know life can be terrible. That's why you need God to help you. Where in America, you know, it's just like people will lose their faith because their father died. And I understand, but at the same time, it's like, I guess nobody told you people died. Nobody told you that there's real pain and tragedy. No one told you about cancer. No one told you about all this stuff because they're trying to keep you pure and innocent, which backfires.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I just did a good.
There's another dividing line for her, and it's when she really starts to change. And supposedly, no one's got the exact papers on this, but her parents divorced in when she was about 2011. Oh, and right after that, her music really starts to change.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
To the surprise of 0 people.
Yeah, exactly. And then she starts moving. So I've been really soaking in this stuff, just trying to go like, how do I deal with all this? Because it's important. Because here's what I saw. There is a video of her. This is what made me decide to do this. There's a video of her receiving an honorary doctorate at New York University in 2022, late 2022. And she gives a speech there, which is so poised and so good. And I said to myself, oh, if she tried to become president, she would become president in a heartbeat. Because she sounds so much more together than, say, Trump or Biden or any of these people.
It's not too hard.
No, it isn't. That's the whole point. And I said, she's not going to make that move right away. But eventually, you know, is she going to be 45 years old out kind of doing these massive tours? Maybe. But I have the feeling this girl has some serious ambitions, and she made a massive change in her, and there is actually in a documentary about her interview where she says, I'm deconstructing everything I believed.
Interesting.
And another one where she says, I'm a Christian, but she's like totally opposite, like kind of the right-wing Christians of Tennessee. Right. It's complicated, and I would get all into it all. But what struck me is she going to do woke politics? And what will woke politics be by that time? Because it's not going to be what it was in 2019.
No. I mean, the 2019 wokeism is already going away.
It's historical.
Now I have to speak for Chad here, because I have absolutely no idea who Sleep Token is. Bern, do you know who Sleep Token is?
Nope.
Okay, so Bern doesn't know. I don't know, Chad. I remember that in some of your videos, you were doing some videos for a while where you had Sleep Token music and something else going on. So maybe when you and Bern have your conversation, you can enlighten us all about who Sleep Token is and why you think they're important. So,
or maybe I need to get one to get a good night's sleep.
So, but that's, I mean, part of the reality of globalization is it's impossible to see everything. And so part of the reason we do sense making through each other is that, you know, I I mean, I didn't even know about the 1969 Woodstock movie, except you mentioned it now and you said it's important. So I do some of my sense making through Burn, and I think that's part of what these channels are doing on YouTube.
Well,
it's slower, and so we do our sense making through each other.
If you want the real video from the 60s and the music scene that really gets down to the nitty gritty, it's the video documentary of the Altamont Rock Festival called Gimme Shelter. And this is where you have someone gets killed near the front of the stage. You have some of the worst Hell's Angel behavior. 4 people died during that. And but it was basically, that was the end of the 60s dream, essentially. And it was in the San Francisco Bay Area as well. I almost went to it as a kid.
And there it is on YouTube for free. Gimme Shelter right there.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
so
we gotta land the plane in 6 minutes because Thursday is sermon day. And
I got it. So I got one more here, and I'm actually going to try to get out of here slightly earlier because this might. Oh, you'll see. But okay, so we got that one. Wait a minute. One more. David has thrown in 40 US, but David already gave. So that's going to push, Dave, you already gave 20. And so I'm assuming you're upgrading
Georgian music for you.
Music. Okay, so let me just put that up there.
But CW wants to know what I would do with a platform like Arc. It would be much more estuary stuff. I would get those people talking to each other.
Well, I would recommend the video I just put out a couple of weeks ago on art and culture, practical suggestions. And I get into the ARC thing, and one of my problems is as someone on my comment section said, it's kind of like TED Talks for conservatives. And and I said exactly, the problem is there's too much imitation of styles already out there. And the problem is, and I make a big deal about one of the things I learned from being in the art world in New York, particularly when I was delivering art, is I would meet all these artists who had interesting stuff, and then they would put it into the gallery, and the context of the gallery would change the meaning of the art. And I said, rather than trying to fill up the actual content of the art, we need to work on the context of things. So we need to work on the way things look, the way we approach things. So I would recommend going and checking that video out. It's, I don't know, I can't remember the exact title, something about art and culture. It's very clear. It's about 2 or 3 videos back. So, okay, so Iskander is back. Hold on a minute. And Iskander gave me $50. Great. So Iskander, do you want the music, I'm assuming? So, okay, David gets it. Then Iskander, okay. Well, we are at $1,696 or something like that. I have to go back and check that out. But anyway, we're close. So Paul, I'm going to let you go here.
Okay.
And I'm going to shut off in a couple of minutes myself. Thank you so much for the time and bringing some of your rabble my way, although your rabble sometimes finds me themselves anyway. And I appreciate that. And yeah, I'm going to.
We can't wait to see what getting your library to you will produce for your channel and your project. So that's super exciting.
Yeah. Well, it's still uphill. I'm closing in on the 6,000, but I have, I still got the other 6,000 of the other parts of the trip to go. But I figure once you get the big one, then people go, oh, then I go like, we're working on this 2,000. People are readily able to. But it's great. So we're like $1,696 away or so. Actually, $1,606 away. I don't know, something like that. But that's really good. That's really good. So thank you, Paul. Thank you, everyone. And I'll be back. Do I feel like doing this tomorrow night? Maybe. It's either going to be tomorrow or Saturday. So look out for my Anadromous Life on Facebook, Twitter, And a video I put up here announcing things about, tomorrow or so, or the next day. So, good night. And as the Georgians say, drolabit, which means temporarily. We'll meet each other again.